women are expected to work like they don't have children, or like they don't have to parent, and parent like they don't have a job, right? So like, the way we're expected.
Hold on.
That was really good. Say that again.
For a second.
So parent like
repeat.
you don't have a job, and work like you don't have to parent. Like,
right.
You know, like we're expected to show up in each space. Like, what are you talking about, kids? You're expected to show up as much as, and we do.
All I see is blessings on blessings, yeah. I see the blessings coming our way, our way, our way. Blessings on blessings.
This is the Cool Mom Code podcast, and if you don't know, then I'll let you know. This podcast is meant for us to just like hang out and talk and inspire. My whole goal with this podcast was kind of to create a space where a lot of times as mothers, I think, and it happened to me, you kind of forget who you are a lot, right? You give so much to everyone else and so many other people, from spouses or partners to friends to your children to your work to whatever it is, that I think that for me, I kind of forgot what my vibe was, right? Like when I became a mom. So for me, this space is to inspire women that regardless of the fact that you're moms, like you can still go out and kick ass and do amazing things. And here are the dope women that I want to introduce you guys to, or just like have you learn more about, or whatever it is through this conversation. So that's why you guys are here today.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it so much. And thank you for creating the space for that, because I think as moms, we're always, we're pulled in so many different directions, and there's a lot of guilt and all the things. So it is nice to get to
that's
celebrate.
Interesting. I mean, okay, first let's introduce you guys, right? And so we have Nikeo Greco, who we go way back.
Way back.
And Melissa, like I say, I mean, we go way back too.
We go pretty way back. Yeah. I think I met you when I had our 10-year-olds are the same age, so we just had children.
Which is wild. Yeah. You were probably one of the first people I met here in LA.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like at events and things like that. That's how we met. We met at events.
Yeah.
You, I think I met you right before you had your position at the Grove.
Yes.
Because I knew you before, and then when you got that, I was like, oh my God, so exciting.
Yeah, and then we probably saw each other a lot more at those events.
And then we saw each other a lot more at those events, and that's where we connected. Yeah. So that's kind of how I've always, our interactions have always been.
Yeah.
And then Nikeo, girl.
I mean,
well, you and I have a lot of mutual friends.
Yes.
I will say that first and foremost.
Yes, definitely.
But I met you pretty early on, too. And I remember going to events in LA, and we were like the only black girls there.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I do nothing else, I'm going to talk to this black girl
who
was at this event.
Same. I was like, I want to be your friend.
I want to be your friend because
Can we please be friends?
It was so hard for me to meet people in LA because I had come from New York. I didn't have any family here. I didn't have any friends here. And forget about mom friends. I mean,
and LA is hard.
LA
is
hard.
a hard place to meet people.
LA is really hard. And
really
I don't think I realized how isolating it was. In New York, you can meet anybody on the corner.
Yeah.
Especially as a new mom.
Right.
Because if you live in a neighborhood where you can stroll down the street and stuff, maybe, and you mentioned the Grove, if you can walk there and bring your kids.
Yeah.
But if you're in the hills, if you're in a canyon, they're not really just out and about.
Girl,
so
it does
true.
not matter where you are. Everything is segregated. I mean, not segregated. Let me not use that word because that's a trigger word for me. Isolated. Everything is so separate. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas in New York, I think you use so much mass transportation that you don't run into people all the time.
Right.
Whereas in LA, everyone does house parties or house gatherings or house dinners. So unless you are in that clique, you don't know nobody.
Right. I mean, I remember when I first had my oldest child, who's now 16. Can't believe it. I used to go to the Grove every day and just roam around
because look for other moms.
Yeah, my orange bugaboo.
Can I be your friend?
Just literally, and then okay, let's sit on the grass for a little while. Okay, let's go get something to. I mean, just hanging out at the Grove by myself with my kid.
Have you ever done this thing when you travel, or if you've moved to a new area, you're there and you hear children laughing and playing from you're where's it coming from? Where's it coming from? I gotta go find those people.
This is your cheese, you're the ant to the cheese or the mouse to the cheese.
Yeah. I gotta go find where that sound's coming from.
Find the laughs.
Because maybe those kids can play with my kids, and maybe I'll know that mom and I'll like her or parents or whatever.
1000%. I mean, but were you guys ever into the mommy groups? I never was.
See, I was, but I joined, but that's because I had one friend that had a kid, Shannon, before me. And she was a very organized mom when it came to activities and groups and supports. And,
I love those.
And so she's like, you have to sign up for Donna Holleran Baby Group. And you have to
your friends who have all the things.
Right.
They'll like send you their Excel sheet.
Exactly.
And then, here's all the things.
She really should have hers published. I mean, I still use it, and it's like
I live
18
for those
years
moms,
old.
though.
Yeah, and so I signed up for all of them. I lived in downtown LA, and they were all in Santa Monica.
Oh yeah,
And so literally I set myself up to be the East Sider with the West Side mom, because then that was all I knew.
You set yourself up for failure.
So then I literally went to preschool on the West Side. I mean, I was just constantly.
So your commute was
and
crazy.
the car, I basically, and then it's like if you don't get back on the 10 by 3 p.m. And even at one point we had moved to Hancock Park, which was actually harder because at least downtown I could
close
just
to a freeway.
hop on.
Yeah.
So at one point we had moved into Hancock Park, and it would literally be like, okay, it's time to drop her off at school, and then I would go to like Maha Yoga. I would work at Starbucks for a few hours.
I just whole West Side life.
I mean, it's kind of a theme for me. It's like I have a kid and I just go find public places to hang out.
That's kind of what it is, though, because you kind of become a little bit of chauffeur,
right?
Like, unfortunately, and then I hear it gets worse. I mean, obviously, as a 10, we both have like 10-year-olds or whatever. But like 10 is my oldest. 10 is your oldest as well,
yeah,
right?
I have one.
So, okay, that's right.
9
That's right.
still,
That's right.
but he's going to be 10.
That's right. So even like now, don't you feel like with their activities, you have a 16-year-old, which
who doesn't drive.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Does she want to drive?
She says eventually. I mean, but
no
now,
rush to drive.
Right. Now these
Which
kids
is great.
like,
I mean, that is kind of nice.
Sadly, I think a big part of it is that, so many of them, because LA is becoming so much more with, Ubers and Lyfts and whatever, which, I don't let her do by herself, but, she does with her friends. And then they don't have to put their phones down, right?
Oh.
Right? And so, and by the way, sometimes I Uber to meetings just because I can get stuff done,
Interesting. Knocking out two birds on one phone.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though. I never thought about it like that. I mean, we are in such a different phase, right, of life and time period than when we turned 16.
Right.
I never thought like kids wouldn't want to drive.
Right.
I could
'cause
not
we had no phones
wait to drive. Yeah.
I was like,
please take me to the DMV.
Like, please, like, can you please? Like, I just want to practice.
Yeah,
I
so she practices. She does like the online classes, and you have to do like 30 hours online and 60 hours with
a parent,
student driver. Like you have to take
okay.
like they don't have driver's ed at school like I had it at school growing up. But yeah, I mean she will eventually. Wow. But then there's also that part where you're like, I'm kind of relieved she's not driving because I would just never sleep.
LA is no joke.
Yeah. You're not sleeping when your kid is out driving at 16.
No, so there's that part of me. Yeah, like
that's
I'm like,
terrifying.
It's okay. We can ease.
See, that's not what I'm ready for. I'm not ready for all that.
Oh yeah, and it comes like that.
I know.
It's crazy.
I can't believe we're already there. I keep on thinking to myself, like, I only have 7 more years before she's like gone.
It's crazy.
Like, that's wild.
It's so crazy.
Okay, but let's go backwards a little bit, right? Well, first let's do this because I'm literally looking at 2 of the most beautiful women.
Wow.
And you guys have been in the beauty and style space collectively.
Yeah.
Pretty much for a very long time.
Yes.
Your whole career.
20 years.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's start here. I'm going to describe for everyone who's audio right now. Basically, me and Akeo have the same hair right now.
We do.
And
do.
so
it's
we have
summer locks.
But you have like locks. I have twists, but they're pretty much very similar.
Yeah, summer hair.
Summer hair, which is so easy, especially for all of our women of color. What are you wearing on your face right now? What was your kind of morning routine?
Well, so as you can see, I've chosen to be a little bit more natural today.
I love it though. I love it, which is why I'm asking because you're such a natural beauty that I want to know.
I love you so much. So I don't have one stitch of makeup on. I actually popped some lip gloss on right before we started. So this morning I woke up. I cleansed with one of our brands at 13 Loon, which we'll get into, called Ceylon. It's like one of my favorite cleansers. It's actually a brand that was created for men of color, but they make the best cleanser.
Great.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I used first, and then I used a Butter Vitamin C serum by our lovely Dorian.
Yeah.
And then
some Dorian.
Yes, and then I used Shani Darden's eye serum.
Shani.
And then I used our one and done everyday cream that I just launched a month ago from Relevant Your Skin Scene, which is a 4-in-1. So it's a moisturizer, it's a primer, it hydrates the skin, and because I feel like people just always skip the step, I made sure it has SPF 40. So that's literally all I have on my face right now, except for the lip gloss.
And so that's kind of hard because the SPF, it helps, it matches all skin tones. It's
yeah,
not one of those
so it
SPF
does. Yeah, I mean, I
looks
created
like-
it, and I was like, I can't with the white cast, but I also wanted something, because I do feel, especially for people of color, that it is that step that a lot of people skip because they don't want to have a white cast on their skin. And, you know, we're really supposed to be reapplying SPF, especially, you know, when you're outside in your cars, every 90 minutes to 2 hours.
No
and
way.
so I wanted to make something that if I am wearing makeup, it's not going to hurt my look. So,
No, it
it's
looks
great.
flawless.
It's for all skin tones, and everything that we're launching within Relevant Your Skin Scene, very much a pun intended, because everybody's skin deserves to be seen, and
That's right.
and nobody needs to be left out. And
Right.
so, you know, with a lot of the products, it's very intentional. That'll be rolling out this fall. That, you know, there are times, and I'm sure you've had this situation where you go and you're hearing all about this amazing serum or toner that's got all these acids and it helps with discoloration, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And you read the label and you're like, I can't put that on my face. I'll actually cause hyperpigmentation
Right.
or hypo, because we're so sensitive. And, you know, with Relevant, it's like, no, I'm working with really amazing advanced ingredients. Also, you know, married with heritage, which is important to me, but nobody gets left out. They're
I
there for
mean, I
everybody.
think it's phenomenal
Thank
because I can't
you.
tell you how many stories I've had just about just, you know, it's interesting because when you first launched and when you first even like came up with, you know, even the marketplace, right? 13 Lune. I was like, this is so great because it's really hard for us to always find products that we know will work with our skin type.
Right.
And so I've been in the modeling industry for years, the acting industry, on camera, right? But I've had tons of makeup artists who either cannot find my color,
Yeah.
or aren't using the right products, or I leave with like rashes, or I
Right.
leave with like, I remember one time I was on a job. This woman was doing my makeup, and whatever she used, I literally broke out in a full rash around like my whole like eye socket.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the mess? But I've been on several sets where, you know, they're like, oh, we just don't have your shade. And I'm
Which
like,
is absolutely ridiculous.
So unacceptable.
Yeah.
what is happening?
Or like
that
hairstylists
was-
who say, I don't do textured hair. It's like, well, then
Correct.
I actually am going to remove your
Correct.
hairstylist title
Correct.
because
But you, as a model, you
not-
can't do
call
anything.
yourself
Yeah,
a
yeah.
hairstylist.
As a model, you are literally
No, I mean,
the
I've heard
most-
a lot of models carry, and by the way, I do that sometimes where, you know, back in the day where I used to carry my own foundation in my purse just because I didn't want to
1000%.
have that anxiety that if I got there and they couldn't match my shade, at least
Yes.
I could at least do it. you
I
know?
remember like one of the very first fashion shows I had. I went into the bathroom and I was like, what are you guys all doing in here? It was like literally like 4 of like the black models in there. I was like, what are y'all doing in here? They're like, girl, we fixing our makeup. And like they just went, and that's where I learned. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, bring my own stuff.
Yeah, bring your own
like,
stuff.
Go
Right.
into the bathroom, be private
But how
about
sad
it.
is that?
You
You know,
shouldn't have to,
you
but
shouldn't
also,
have to.
you know, another big pillar of 13 Lune is, and the way Nikeo's positioned it is really to change the retail landscape and inspire the whole landscape to change
That's
in
right.
general. So if we have a foundation range or a complexion range, it's the whole range.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we don't
That's
cherry
right.
You don't cherry pick. So, you know, you don't know if it's going to sell unless
That's right.
you offer it.
I was just
Right.
going to say though,
Right?
which is also hard from a business standpoint, right? Because with offering so many different colors, how do you know what's
Yeah.
going to sell more of, what's going to sell less of? Then you have a I mean, we can talk about all of it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a hard part. But before we go into that,
Yes.
Melissa, tell us, what did you use this morning? What is on your face?
I have all the
looking
things on my
straight
face.
flawless. No, you don't. You look so naturally
so
beautiful
good.
right now.
You do
I
look so good.
got a little less sleep than I planned for.
And tell us
so
your
I-
nationality too. Tell us like your nationality too.
yeah.
So for all the people who are listening audio wise, you know, they know exactly like what they're looking at.
So I'm first generation American, but my whole family is from the Philippines.
Nice. Okay.
My dad's mother was Spanish, so there's a lot of Spanish. I think with a lot of Filipinos, there's a lot of mix.
Right.
But that is my specific background. And my skin, I mean, like I tan really easily, but
yeah, because
generally have a,
you're dark. I mean, you're
Yeah.
darker. Like so,
Yeah.
you probably tan really dark.
I tan really dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially on the tops of my feet. You guys, my Birkenstock tan
my
right
God.
now is no joke. It's real sexy. I looked at my husband the other day. I'm like, only thing sexier than me wearing Birkenstocks nonstop is my Birkenstock tan.
Because what would you
It
say?
looks like I'm just wearing
By the way, I
sandals.
have the same thing.
Don't
all
you,
the
but that's
time.
just summer. What are you going to do?
Yeah,
it just
but
is
a
what it is.
Birkenstock tan.
It's
yeah,
hot. You
yeah,
guys.
yeah.
It's really hot.
It's really sexy.
It's super sexy.
It's really sexy.
It's just.
But you're probably about what? Like maybe 2 shades lighter than me?
Yeah.
But you still have a lot of yellow, right?
Yeah.
Because I do too. I feel like I tend to
I'm more red.
go
Yeah.
yellow. Yeah, you're more red. Okay,
But-
so what did you use this morning?
So I've been loving this exfoliator from Paula's Choice. It's the BHA AHA exfoliator. It just like kind of makes it all glossy and tightens all the pores. So I
that's
did
what I
that, and then after that I actually didn't do any other thing. I went straight to Relevant,
Okay.
one and done.
Yes.
And I'm really dry.
Okay.
And if I use this exfoliant, it makes me a little bit drier too. Not like crazy cracking dry, but definitely dry. And this morning, I'm like, Relevant's really moisturizing. For
It
being
is
a
really.
4-in-1, especially with sunscreen, even with like tinted sunscreens or like just sunscreens that have moisturizer or whatever, it's never been moisturizing enough.
Right.
But Relevant's actually something I can put on even after the like pretty aggressive
Yeah.
exfoliator, toner or whatever, and put it on and totally fine, especially in the summer. Like,
Right.
you don't want too much moisture.
Too much heavy
Right,
moisturizer.
exactly.
Yeah.
Anything that can lay under a foundation
Yeah,
really well
and that's
too
why
is
you can
always
use it
key.
as a.
That's the
I
great
use it
thing.
as
Right.
a primer always, and by using a little bit of vitamin C, it helps your SPF to be stronger.
Oh.
And so that's why I like to layer it. But I only have to use a tiny bit of vitamin C, because then if I use that and the one and done, sometimes it's almost too much moisture.
didn't know that.
And I run really
So
dry.
a little bit of vitamin C helps your
SPF to work.
sunscreen or your
Yeah.
SPF
Makes it
a
work
little bit more
effectively.
potent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I think a 4-in-1 is brilliant for
Thank
anyone
you.
in our position,
Yeah,
because
it's on
literally
the go.
always on the go and like not enough time.
Yeah.
So in the morning, I'm not trying to do a full face.
Right.
I'm trying to like do what I need
Yeah,
to do
one
to
and
get
done.
myself
Yeah,
out of the door.
and it's got great skincare benefits. It's got 2 hyaluronic acids, niacinamide. We have our own proprietary complex using
Nice.
oils that
Yeah.
I'm excited to do because of my grandfather being medicine man.
Yeah.
But oils with intention that are meant to help, and it really evens out the skin tone. It's completely non-toxic and clean. So
Yeah.
my kids use it, my husband uses it,
That's awesome.
and I wanted something that.
I use it on the tops of my hands.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
You always
great.
have
So
to
your
do top skin.
teenager
Yeah, yeah.
uses it.
Mhm.
That's
She's-
great.
yeah.
Okay,
And
so
it
what
really
else?
does leave like a really, I mean, I know you hear this word a lot in beauty, but it really is glowy.
Yeah.
It's like a satin.
That's what you want.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
want a little like
you want a
know,
satiny glow.
You want a satiny glow, especially
Yes.
in the morning.
Yes.
You want to feel
Not a
like
sticky
a little
glow, a satin
Yeah,
glow.
it's not
Yes.
sticky.
Yeah,
it's
because
not.
I could never stand stickiness on
No,
my face.
and
yeah.
not too shiny.
Yeah.
No one needs to be overly shiny.
Yes.
You just want a little glow.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
a
been
little
really
sun-kissed.
fun, and I'm glad that we launched it first, because I feel like it can be, the staple to kind of the anchor for
Yeah.
everything else
Yeah.
that's about to come out.
And the great thing is it's got everything in it. So
Mm-hmm.
like in the past I've used tinted moisturizers with SPF, which are great too,
Right.
but especially in the summer, and I think just more as a technique for myself over the last couple of years, and I've had a lot of friends say they do this, is people aren't putting foundation all over their face anymore, really. Especially
using
in the
it more
summer
for,
on
like,
the
So
day-to-day.
true. It's so
So after Relevant, I took Westman Atelier, Gucci Westman
Yep.
foundation stick.
Yeah.
But really only put it here.
And so
here.
she's pointing literally to like under her
Oh, yes,
eyes.
under eyes and,
then,
like kind
kind
of
of
down
yeah,
around
chin.
my chin.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I used before that actually, I did use a little under eye cream from Allies of Skin.
Okay.
I
Which
love
is
that
like
eye
a
cream.
peptide eye
Oh,
cream,
nice.
which is
So
also
good.
on
We sell it at
13
So like
Lune.
firming.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, nice.
Super firming, super hydrating, plumping, and all
Yes.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I used an Ami Collet mascara.
Ooh.
I love that mascara is so good.
It's good. It's
yeah,
really
we sell
good.
that at 13 Lune
And
as
like
well.
her packaging is just so chic.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, I
like,
love that.
I
I
love
love
her.
the
It's
packaging.
got that orange,
Yeah.
but also Relevant is orange.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
she's
easy
like,
to
it's
find in
attractive
your
to my
makeup
eyes.
bag.
Yeah, exactly.
All that. And then I do my kind of signature cat eye
Mm-hmm.
eyeliner. To be honest, I think this morning I used something from It Cosmetics.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it's just like black,
Yeah.
and it doesn't
Yeah.
move. And then on my eyebrows, I use this. There's this great line that we actually carry on 13 Lune called Aire Perez.
Oh.
And she's Mexican, but she has lived in
in
Australia
Australia.
Oh,
for
I
a really
love
long
that.
time.
Okay, cool.
So it's kind of a blend of her Mexican heritage for sure as far as ingredients, but then a lot of great ingredients from Australia.
Nice.
So yeah, it's all natural, all clean.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that most of the products are clean.
Yeah, all the products
all
are
the products are
non-toxic
clean.
at
Okay.
13 Moon. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about this though,
Yeah.
because I know that you guys have been, like I said, in the beauty style industry for a very long time, even before children.
Yeah.
How has that been? I guess I kind of want to go backwards. I kind of want to, because I want to talk on 2 points on this, right? Like, obviously, I think every one of our viewers are interested in what, and I dare to say juggle, because I don't think anyone's asking men what their juggle are, right? Like, I don't think
Like
anyone's asking
balance.
dads what their juggle is.
Right.
And I think balance is a very
That's
triggering
it.
word
Yeah,
as well,
too. Same.
because
Juggle, balance.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's asking anybody else about balance,
Right.
But I do want to know. I think what people are interested in knowing is, you know, how you take, because you are limited in time and energy and thought process, right? How you can make it all work. How
Right.
about, like, let's say it like that way. How can you make it all work?
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you were already in the beauty space, and then kids.
Yeah.
How do you make it all work?
Yeah, I mean, I would say still working
we
on
all?
that every day. I would say for myself, you know, my first brand that I ever created was my first baby.
Right.
And I say this to young entrepreneurs all the time, that, you know, starting a business at 27 years old, before you're married, before you have kids, when you still live with your girlfriends in an apartment that can help you pack boxes,
Yes.
it's like, it's almost, it's a scary time to do it, but it's a great time, because it's a perfect time in your life that you get to be, you know, very boldly selfish, right? 'Cause
And
you
learn.
and only be taking care of yourself.
Right.
So, you know, my kids were both born into me having businesses. And so I would say that what I've learned, because I didn't always do a great job of this in the beginning, was that, you know, first of all, we were raised in a generation and culture that you were, you know, taught to be humble and blah, blah, blah. And that is so important. But I think sometimes as women, when we think about, you know, being humble, sometimes it's almost like we put others and everyone else before ourselves. And I say that, you know, now with a 16 and 11-year-old, that prioritizing my own rest and self-care and time helps me in all my parts to show up better as a mother, as a business owner, as now a skincare founder again. And for me, as somebody who makes naps non-negotiable.
Nick Kay was a really good napper.
I'm a really good
Wow.
napper. I could fall asleep in this chair right now if you ask me to. Like,
It's
I just
real skill. by
like
the
it's
way,
like
'cause
even when I don't feel tired, I can still make myself. I always have to like kind of meditate for a few minutes, but I will fall asleep.
Okay, wait a minute. But how are you taking naps? Can we go? Just everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone is
Oh,
thinking in their
I
mind.
I
How
schedule
can this busy
my
woman take a nap
yeah.
every day?
No, this is why prioritizing. You have to prioritize. So that is something that I have to have is rest and sleep. I travel a lot, and
Right.
And I love what you said too about the juggle and men. Like, I get a lot of this reflection, even from people I love. Like, women will be like, "God, is it so hard on David that you travel so much?"
Oh
or,
my God.
You know, how do you do it?
And
Like,
David is her
how do-
husband,
and
just so
yeah,
everyone
yeah,
knows.
David's
Yeah.
my husband, and I'm like, has anybody ever asked a man, God, is it so hard on your wife that you travel so much? You know,
at all.
Or
It's the
when
expectation,
and it's
right.
often sadly women who'll say things like this, like, "Oh, I don't know how you do it. I don't know. I mean, how in the world, how you keep," and it's that,
Wow.
which I understand that it's like, okay, they're honoring your journey and they're watching you on
Right.
Instagram and
Right.
whatever it is, but it's like, that doesn't make me feel good when people say that to me. So
Yeah.
if anybody out there listening is my friend and they say that to me, stop saying it.
Yeah.
But going back to naps, I will literally do my very best to calendar around times of rest.
This is wild.
So
you
if
feel refreshed after like a 20-minute nap.
you can't go more than 30 minutes. So
Wild.
really
or
feel-
you're wrecked. Like you
If I'm down for 20 minutes,
can't.
I'm down. I'm done.
no,
There's no waking
you have
up
to you
after
have to
that.
set an alarm, and it takes me a good 6-7 minutes to fall asleep.
Have you
maybe
always
10.
done this? Like even
No, so when I was little, my mom says I was a terrible napper, and I didn't ever want to nap. And then it really started in college, where I was like, well, and that was because we were behaving like college kids. But I was like, God, I always feel so much better after I take a nap. And then I, became an adult and started working, and there was zero time when I was working in entertainment,
Of
as an
course.
assistant and all this stuff for naps. And then it was, kind of, I guess, when I had Lulu, when they would say sleep when the baby sleeps,
yeah.
which I didn't do, right?
I was good at that. With
I
one
was not.
kid, I was great with that.
No, I was not good at that. And so I would like savor her nap time for like, I want to watch TV. I want to empty the dishwasher. I'm going to work on my business. And then I literally exhausted myself. And so it was really, and then you're 40. And
Listen, that is
then 45.
that's a great skill to have. She's like,
Then 49. So it's like the older you get, the more you actually really value sleep too.
Yeah.
So
No, listen, don't get me wrong. I value it. I value it a lot.
yeah, but you have to prioritize.
But you have to prioritize it.
And sometimes, like, now my kids are bigger and they can be self-sufficient in the house. But even when they were like, they're 5 years apart, so I get that lucky,
Yeah, you do.
big sister helper to the
Right.
little one. But I would be like, Mommy's going to go lay down for 30 minutes, like watch Dora, do you, but like don't come in that room.
Wow.
Unless it's an emergency.
I love that. I mean, I think
Unless something's
that's
on
probably
fire.
one of your biggest self-care tips
Yeah, it
that
is.
you could have
Rest.
shared with us. It's just, no, not even rest. Stop.
Yeah.
It's cat naps.
Cat naps.
Cat naps.
30
Like,
minutes.
And
just
listen,
pillow.
how quick does 20-30 minutes go when we're scrolling Instagram?
Right.
Like
I
mean,
in a
this is
blink.
true.
And you cannot lay down with your phone. You have to set your
Yeah.
alarm, put your phone
But, like,
away. But 'cause you-
reallocate that 30 minutes that you usually, we all do it.
Right.
30 minutes here and there. 3
So
hours,
true.
Whatever.
Okay, what is yours then, Melissa? What would you say your guilty kind of, not even guilty, but what is your like self, do you have
Self-care
one?
hack daily. I don't nap. It's not it. It's not it.
I wish.
Exercise.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay,
You know,
nice.
which is it's a non-negotiable. And I think, of course, we can all set really great examples for our kids to be like you're really taking care of yourself.
Right.
I tell Miles, my son, what it is. Like, oh, I signed up with this new trainer who we do stuff on the trampoline, and
that.
I like it because of this. Like, really try and engage him as much as possible, and how it makes me feel. And my husband's really active. He goes for runs, so we kind of break up our I'm
Yeah.
gonna run from 7 to 8, so I've got Miles's breakfast and everything.
Oh, nice. So you tag team it.
We totally tag team it, and I mean, I know it sounds really simple, but like so much of that stuff really falls through the cracks, right?
Yeah.
Are you joking?
But
Yeah.
like,
It's
how
so hard.
much better do you feel when you like
Right.
sweat for 45 minutes?
Right.
so true.
Like, I'm nicer, I'm more patient.
Right.
I'm a better
your
person.
And your
Just-
brain, it really, the serotonin
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that you
Endorphins.
it makes you kinder.
Yeah, for sure. So
it's so true. And then when you kind of fall off the wagon and you're like, and get back on, and it's not even the wagon. It's like and it doesn't have to be our crazy trampoline classes, but even just like, oh gosh, I haven't prioritized working out for a week, and then you go for a walk and you're like,
it's true.
why don't I do this like
All the time.
all the time?
And I think for new moms too, like brand new moms, I remember I had a C-section too, so I couldn't move
Same.
too
Right.
much.
First time.
But I set little markers for myself in the neighborhood we were living in at the time. I'd say, okay, I'm going to walk to the corner, and then like the next week I had some letters to mail. I'm going to walk to the mailbox, which was 2 blocks. So obviously part of it had to do with recovery.
Right.
But then even after that, I'm like, I'm going to walk to Starbucks. Or
Oh,
I'm
so
gonna
I like
walk
that.
To
Yeah.
whatever, and just giving
Yeah.
yourself actual physical markers, because all this stuff we see on Instagram and stuff with like the snapback or the bounce back,
Oh my
or
gosh.
all that stuff. There's been so much pressure
Right.
on women to have this like bounce back or whatever.
But there always has been.
Right.
That's the thing.
always has
and
been.
it's not,
And now it's just more in our face.
right.
Yes.
You know,
I agree.
now it's
But
not
even
just
16 years
supermodels
ago.
and actresses
Yeah.
on magazines. Now
Yeah.
it is literally every time you scroll, it's
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
Influencer or person that you follow
Right.
is having these instant snapbacks. You know what's interesting though? I feel like my body totally shifted when I had kids, and I'm 3 down with
Yeah.
kids. So I feel like it's never going back, but that's okay. I feel like also though, it's always really hard for me to put in the time to work out. It's like, and it's weird because I'm not a gym person. You cannot get me into a gym
neither.
and think that I'm going to have a great time, because I'm not.
Yeah.
I hate the gym.
Yeah.
I do, but I'm very active of a person.
Right.
Like if you like, all right, Lizzie, let's go like play basketball, or let's go wall climbing,
Right.
or let's go roller skating. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm down.
Yeah.
But that feels almost in my head too much to commit to
Right.
on a daily basis.
Right.
So I like the idea of what you're saying. And this can actually go across the board, whether you're
Right.
working out, whether it's business, whether you're whatever, trying to build, keep up with your friends, whatever. Small goals.
Yeah, small goals.
Doable goals.
Markers.
Right.
Doable goals,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to manifest, because I think that's the other thing, is that, the diet, weight culture, it's like shifting the narrative, right?
Right.
I think that people are about instant results and blah blah blah, but it's really about what you're doing on the inside, right?
To make
And
it
things that you
sustainable,
can't-
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to make it sustainable. And so, for me, I love dancing. Like, I've always loved dancing. I was a dancer as a
Hey.
kid, and so finding those fun moments to dance where it
Right.
doesn't actually feel like I'm prioritizing exercise. I just know I'm moving my
But
body
you
and it
found
feels
an
good.
app, right? That was dancing.
Yes.
that
Well,
you
I'm
found.
obsessed with Plyo Jam. I'm
Oh,
always
Plyo Jam.
Plyo Jam is like going to the club
Mm-hmm.
in your living room.
No.
But it's so fun. Like, my kids will do it with me. Rocco loves it.
Is it
He,
good music?
It's good music. 'Cause
Okay,
a lot
because
of
that's
times,
all, yes.
and I
That's
always
the
worry
biggest
that
hiccup.
I'm gonna get them in trouble. Like, I'm wondering what their licensing thing is, because, but literally the one I did the other day was like all boy bands, but like
Oh.
old school, like from 90s,
Like
boy
the ones
bands.
you could relate
yeah,
to.
Yeah, like NSYNC
Yeah.
and all of that, and it's really doable. It's not like hard dance. I love Groove 3. I actually really like hard dance classes and Body by Simone and all of those types of classes. But this is like
And you can do it in your hotel room when you're traveling.
totally. It's like aerobics.
Okay, but this is the thing, okay?
It's like aerobics.
I have friends who say they can't dance or whatever, right? Can't keep a beat, but yet they love dance classes.
Yeah.
And I've gone with them and they're totally killing it.
Yeah.
At the dance class. And I've always felt like, okay, I could try and keep a beat, but these dance classes, some of them
Plyo Jam is not that.
are so intimidating.
No, Plyo Jam is like Jane Fonda back in the day.
Okay.
But,
I picture Jane Fonda.
But the great thing is and it's almost where you're, I wonder, is this, am I actually getting exercise? But then you'll be sore the next day because it's all about using plyometrics. So you're literally doing
the same kind
swing
of,
from
yeah.
side to side, and then they'll have you jump up and down 10 times, right?
Ah.
So they kind of sneak in.
So it's active,
Yeah,
it's fun.
yeah,
Right, and they
but
sneak in movements.
amazing music
I like
and
that.
play,
So
and you can
that's-
do it. It's like a $13 a month app, and you can pick your playlist that you pick your class based on the play. That's how I do it, based on
I
the
love
playlist
that.
that I like. And,
Yes.
it's
See,
fun.
that feels doable. I
and
like doable
you can do the
tips.
30-minute ones.
Yeah.
And also, we have a mutual friend, Monica, who, and I think a lot of people kind of figured this out in the pandemic, working from home and multitasking,
Right.
and your home is your gym / your office / your school, it's all
Right.
the
It's
things.
everything.
So I remember our friend Monica, I believe she started walking
Oh my gosh.
2 to 4 miles a day just in
Our
she
neighborhood.
lives in
She
your
walked.
neighborhood, so it's
Yeah,
flat.
I'd see her out the window.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if this was the goal, but obviously through COVID, just keeping her mental health, she dropped a bunch of a few pounds. But then another friend of mine, work-wise, she rolls all her calls. I mean, she's
Into
super
while
busy.
she
She owns an
walks.
agency. She rolls all her calls while she walks.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's just talk about multitasking. And I
Right.
know a lot of people do that, but I think there's been so many more ways that people see you can
Right.
really be efficient
Right.
about exercise
Yeah.
and taking that time for yourself.
Let's talk about that though. Let's talk about efficiency, right? And
I live for efficiency.
do you?
Yeah.
That's so good because
Yeah.
that's a biggest skill set, right?
Right.
If you can live for efficiency,
I think
you
that's
are winning.
I think that's the root of when we talk about how to get it,
Yeah.
get it
Yeah.
all done or how to
Yeah.
handle.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
So
having
what does
it-
efficiency mean though?
I
What does
think
it
it's-
mean?
I think for me, it means being really intentional, in regards to time, being really intentional in how best am I not going to get overwhelmed with, having such a crazy busy life. And, I had this conversation this morning with my assistant, and I was like, from now on, if it doesn't have to be a Zoom, let's just make it all a call.
Girl, I had that
let's-
conversation the other day.
I do not need to sit for hours and hours and hours
right.
on end and stare at someone as
Or
I
put
speak
it
to
in
But
them.
not
email
even.
Yeah.
But you know what I said? But I said because the time it takes me to get ready to go on that Zoom, to feel good about myself, actually
Right.
Your
putting on that
setup,
camera,
right.
the
Yeah.
setup, the lighting,
Right.
even if I just have to throw on gloss or some eyebrows
Yeah.
or whatever,
None of which
the
I
time
did
it
today.
takes,
Yeah.
I don't feel like doing it.
Right,
If I
right.
can
If
simply,
I can't be in my bathrobe,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
time.
Well, or if I can't get other things done,
Right.
I as women, we are born to multitask,
Oh,
right?
correct.
Folding
And
laundry,
so, yeah,
I
I can
have
get
to do it all.
I can
Yeah.
focus on the conversation. I can have a really good meeting and also be making lunch,
Right.
or driving to go drop off my dry cleaning, right? Like I don't need to sit for hours and hours and hours just to speak,
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's what AirPods are for.
Yeah.
That's where I can use my hands.
Totally agree.
So so that's my new thing is, unless it's a multiple situation where it's important to sit and, Zoom like our team meetings at 13 or something, fine. But if it's a one-on-one.
She's like, just our meetings.
Yeah.
Well, it's just our meetings.
But I'm like,
I don't make lunch during our meeting.
If it's a one-on-one conversation, let's just do it on the phone. And to that point, so you can take a walk, so you can do these other things.
So does efficiency mean to you multitasking?
Intentionally intentionally and mindfully multitasking.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. Intentionally and mindfully.
I think the intentional aspect is like it's good to root efficiency in that, because we as women are so, I think, enticed and also can have and make all these incredible opportunities for ourselves. And also we have social media. So you have that FOMO, you have that why not, why can't I? And like, it's natural, it happens to all of us. So our attention gets pulled, right? Even if you're really clear on like, this is my vision, this is my goal, you inevitably get pulled, and then all the dynamics of kids and family, of course. So I think, to Nikeo's point, being super intentional, like what are the things that are really going to work toward what you really want right now? Not because you saw it on Instagram yesterday, like, wait, I kind of want that too. And look at this person's life, and kind of having that. It's like really try and stay on course as much as possible. Like even if it's a set of questions you give yourself, why am I doing it? Does it move the needle for my career, for my family, from whatever your bigger goal is? Right. Does it pay me what I need to be paid? Is it worth my time from a bottom line standpoint? If that's a big part of your goal, which a lot of us need to ask that question.
So are these the questions you ask yourself before you say yes?
Yeah, a lot of times.
And I find that when you don't do it and you just go ahead and start a pattern, right?
Yeah,
so I used to do this where every time anybody sent me anything, it wasn't even like, oh, I'm going to take a picture and post it. It's like, I became my own creative studio, right? Like, I've got to do this and then do it back. And
show us what you use throughout the day. It takes a lot of time. And
then I started doing it and do it. And listen, I will still do that if I truly, authentically love something and I want to share it. Or if friends have sent it to me and I want to celebrate their business, etc. But then all of a sudden, I started to realize I would look around at people, who maybe had the same amount of followers as me and whatever. And then I started seeing them put like ad, and I'm like, well, they sent me those jeans, but I didn't have to put ad because I think, they know I'll do this for free.
That's
right.
It's a pattern.
That's right.
And these are large companies, and
Well, I think also as women, we're so used to saying, yes, sure, why not? Of course, no worries, sure.
Yeah.
Like we're so used
boundaries.
to saying that in all aspects of our lives. So when, like you said, friends or whatever are asking, great. When it's a spouse, great. When it's the kids,
authentic
great. When
product you love and you want to share,
Yeah. But I kind of like to think of it like a pie chart.
Yeah.
It's like, what part of the pie does this fit into?
Correct.
Right? And if it's like, it doesn't pay me, but it's a great networking opportunity. It's because I'm really love this person. I'm supporting them. Like, what's your why in those different like areas of the pie or boxes, however you want to visualize it. And of course, we have to have grace with ourselves, because there's a lot of times where it's like you're like, sure, and you didn't box check it or put it in the pie.
So true.
And I will like spiral about it. And I'm walking around the house, my husband like throwing things around, being like, I don't want to do this, and why did I say yes? And I'm beating myself up for saying yes. But then I received some great advice from somebody who then I employ that in that situation, is align with your decisions, right? Nobody is forcing you to do this,
right?
But you did say yes, so don't have that push and pull, right? Just go forward, align with your decision, and do the best you can with what you've got and the time you've got and the resources you've got. You gotta deliver.
Stand
anyway.
by. Stand by your word.
Stand by your word.
That's
right. I try and tell my son that too. Like, you have a commitment.
That's
we
right.
Gotta be on, why wouldn't we be on time?
Stand by your word and don't be afraid to fail. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, regardless if it is a total failure, regardless if you just literally have fucked off a good hour, you're saying that because you said it, do it, and then don't do it again if you don't want to.
Because the system of being like, what's my why in every single thing you get asked to do or opportunity or responsibility you have.
Yeah.
That's a really high standard to hold it to. Like the day in our lives just don't work that way all the time. But you have to have some grace with yourself that, oh, why did I say yes to writing that story? It seemed interesting at the time. Speaking from real life, right?
I'm like, that was some real, just so y'all know.
I was like, hopefully it wasn't a story for 13 minutes.
No. And they are real stories I really want to write. And my husband reminded me the other day, he's like, didn't you pitch them? And I'm like, yeah, I was really excited at the time. And I'm like, not that excited anymore. He's like, well, you gotta, you know, like align with your decisions. Like,
Right.
So just keeping, seeing it through and delivering.
Yeah. No, I love the questions though. I love the checking in, the asking of why, and making sure, does it hit your bottom line?
Right.
Does it give you joy?
Right.
Like, do you
Is it
find
going to exhaust you? Is it,
like, does it work within you? And asking those questions beforehand, before always just saying yes. I think I got into a period of life where I was just like, I'm just going to say yes. I'm just going to say yes. Like, what is it going to hurt? I'm just going to say yes. Yes. And I did, like Nikayla's point, right? I said yes to every single thing. And in many respects, I have to say that I think that it did, it allowed me to see different parts of myself and different areas that I wanted to move in.
Yeah.
You know, and I was transitioning so much from like modeling and acting into kind of like having a voice of my own. And like, so it was just like, that was a weird transition. So I was saying yes to everything to also find what I loved and what I liked and what I was propelled in.
Right.
But I am in the phase of life now, which we all go through, right? Our little ups and downs and our phases and our hills and peaks and valleys and whatever you call them. Then I'm like, okay. Steady is quite a bit, all right? Let's like pull back and like kind of say, I love that though. Check in, and ask yourself, does
what's
it hit
your
your
why?
markers?
But also, like, what does that look like when you get home too? Because when you get home and when you're interacting with your kids, everybody's looks different.
Right.
Yes.
I am a super impatient person. I have a hard time. I get very laser focused on the thing I need to finish.
Right. I'm the same way.
And then if my son starts saying, Mom, like all these different things, can I text so-and-so? Like all the little questions we get from our kids, I like can't just be like, okay, hold on, and put that down. I'm so sorry. What is
no,
it?
that's our
I have a deadline. Don't you understand what a deadline is?
Don't you understand if you want food on this table?
And then I get into this whole spiral of like, if I don't work, then we can't. Like,
oh my God, that is
do
me.
you like Legoland? I'm sorry. Do you want to go to Universal on Tuesday?
Do you
I'm like,
ever
do you
want to
like-
take a vacation again,
right.
or no?
I'm like,
or is this more
I go
important?
super
Hawaii on the
basic.
table.
I'm like, do you like the clothes you're wearing?
Yeah.
Do
Are they
you
good
like
for
to
you?
be clothed?
Right. Yeah.
Just let me know.
You like those
okay?
Nikes?
That's right.
Cool.
Do you like underwear?
So
Go basic.
Totally. And the mom, literally one time I said, guys, don't call me that. And David goes, I don't think that works.
oh
my God.
You didn't want them to call you mom?
I just was so frustrated.
like, no more.
That I was just like,
Nope.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Stop calling me that. Stop talking to me.
You know what?
Please refrain from referring to me as mom from now on.
I was like, just
If you can't
don't call me that.
That's right.
David goes,
So
that's not going to work.
You have
Just
to
mute.
be you have to be also realistic about who you are and your personality,
Right.
because it's like I spiral all the time from guilt of like oh my God, like it's this repeated thing where I'm like no, I'm on deadline, I got this, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes into this guilt situation of like, do you like Nikes? Like, oh my God, that is like trauma central.
So how do you? But
This
how do
is
you
like
deal
therapy,
with that?
right? So
Right.
Because that's my biggest thing. I'm the same way. Like I get when I'm doing something, I'm like, okay, blinders are on. Like
Right.
I don't want to see or hear anything you're doing or whatever.
Right,
And
right.
Issa, my husband, is always the same way. He's like, girl, like you got to be able to multitask.
Yeah.
which is
You
so
can't
hard.
multitask,
But
but
no,
sometimes
it's hard.
a project really needs your
When
total
I am
focus.
laser focused, I cannot multitask on anything anybody else is trying to do
Yeah.
or doing. Like I am, like I'm same
And
way
you know
as
what?
you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to too,
Right.
because when my husband's really busy,
That's what you say.
Yeah.
Okay.
he's like, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
same.
So true.
The
Right.
expectation is different. I mean, someone said it to me last night at dinner, and I think this rings true across all the things we're talking about. Women are expected to work like they don't have children, or like they don't have to parent, and parent like they don't have a job, right?
Oh.
So like
Oh.
the way we're
Hold on.
expected.
Let's
was really
pause
good.
on
Say
that
that
one
again.
for a second.
So
Yeah.
parent like you
repeat.
don't have a job and work like you don't have to parent. Like,
Right.
you know, like
Wow.
we're expected to show up in each space. Like, what are you talking about, kids? You're expected to show up as much as, and we do.
Right.
But what we have to deal with on the back end, nobody knows you were just like shaming your kid
That's
about
right.
his nice clothes or whatever.
Right.
Like, enable.
You're about to take my
If anybody knows a good therapist, enable to come show up and be like, "Yep, I'm all here.
I'm all yours."
question.
Right.
Like-
So when people say like, make sure that this used to make me feel so guilty, you know, and I'm sure I probably picked it up in, you know, some parent magazine or one of my mommy and me classes back in the day. You know, when you're with your children, you know, phones down, blah blah blah. You need to legitimately.
I would not eat.
I was a solo entrepreneur, right? So
How?
and my husband's an artist, right? So like they're always at work with us, right? And yes, there are times that you do, like, we have rules, no phones at the table.
Correct.
Where, you know, we try to prioritize schedule, family dinner. I remember feeling so guilty, and my mom, who's the most amazing mom, who worked her tail off my whole life, we always ate dinner as a family. And so every now and then she'll say, well, you know, just, you got to prioritize sitting down, and we do, but we definitely do not sit down. And there are some weeks that we didn't sit down at all, right? And there's, you know, months like the pandemic where we did it 3 times a day, right? But the guilt around like, oh, am I messing up my kids because sometimes when they're talking to me, I'm looking at my phone, right? But that's my job,
Okay,
right?
but question:
And
does the guilt exist because literally in a mommy group or another parent or someone has told you that it's the wrong thing to do, or does the guilt exist because you feel like you're not spending enough time with your kids?
I think the guilt exists because society has defined
Correct.
to that statement that Melissa made, that like we as women are, and I mean this for women who don't necessarily have to go out to a job every day. Being a mom in itself is a huge job.
It's huge.
And that doesn't mean that you can't take time to prioritize your own dreams,
Right.
take care to prioritize your own health, your own rest.
Exactly.
But I think society is showing us, even current day, that like we don't matter as much.
In the
right?
in the career space, have you guys felt like you've encountered situations where your male counterparts, especially coming from the beauty and style industry, where it's run a lot by men,
Yeah.
and they're literally making decisions on what we as women put on our face, put on our bodies, all these things. Do you feel like that throughout your career you've experienced that kind of
100%
pushback, or you know, or whatever,
100%.
as mothers and as women?
Especially as mothers, women, and women of color. Like that's like, you know, it's a triple threat, but it's also like can be really, really difficult to cut through the noise, especially in a corporate situation.
And how have you cut through the noise?
I mean, just by, you know, not getting knocked down every single time that I've had those moments, that it's abundantly clear that, you know, this isn't going to be what I want it to be in this certain situation. So you pivot and and it may not always be fair, but, you know, I'll use raising capital as an example. You know, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, which means I've been raising money on and off for 20 years because you're just constantly raising or looking for new partnerships. And, you know, there's a lot of people that, you know, who maybe invest a lot in this space that don't look like me, you know, that say really hurtful and painful things and truly devalue you. But as opposed to like letting that knock me down, like, I don't want your money anyway.
Right.
You're not my people.
And what's the statistic on women of color in terms of raising capital? It's
less
really
than
horrible.
0.002%.
No, is it that
less
low?
than 0.0002% of women of color raise money from venture capital, meaning large financial institutions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is why 13 Loon, I feel like, is such a almost like such a standout, right, in this space. I mean, it really is. It really has broken barriers, right, in this space. But I feel like, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but did it come out of kind of the time of Black Lives Matter and like that whole movement that was happening at the same time?
Yeah, you know, I found, you know, with my previous skincare brand that after the murder of George Floyd, I was on all the lists, you know, top Black owned, Black founded, et cetera, to follow, shop, et cetera. And
Your former
my former skincare brand,
right.
yeah. And when that was happening, I was seeing that there were all these brands on these lists that I'd never heard of before. But that I'm also in this side watching, you know, Aurora's beautiful 15% pledge happening.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, how am I on a list with 100, with 1,000, with 500 Black-owned brands? But retailers are finding it hard to put 7 in the store or 10 in the store. And Patrick and I, my co-founder, we had talked for a long time about how do we create something in either beauty or fashion that really speaks to inclusivity before the racial reckoning. And at that point I was like, well, why has nobody ever opened a store where all the brands, and I don't just mean Black-owned brands, I mean people of color, which is people from around the globe, which is where most beauty rituals and ingredients come from.
Stemmed from originally.
Right. So why is there not a store where 90% of the brands are created by people of color? And also wanting to debunk the myth that so many people during that time, in support for my previous brand, would reach out to me and say, I want to use your face oil, but I'm not Black. And
Really?
will it still work on me? And I was shocked. I was like, yo, it's 2020. We have enough going on. Now I have to educate you that just because you're a Black or brown person doesn't mean you only make products for Black
But
or brown
retail
people.
has been historically set up that way.
Right. The
That-
ethnic aisle.
And how it's
you know,
marketed. It's
yeah.
all been segregated. And
Yeah.
Nikhil
Wow.
made the point that she's used products made by white
Every
men,
single
and
day.
we all
Our
have
lives,
for
yeah.
our whole lives, and we
Correct.
haven't questioned it.
Right.
So then,
Wow.
you know,
Yeah.
getting all these questions of like, I really want to shop on 13 Lune, but like, is it only for like people with darker skin or curly hair? It's like, no. So that has been a big part of the
Interesting.
mission.
Yeah.
Interesting.
to
How do you change that
reframe.
narrative?
Well,
how are you guys embarking on changing that
it really is
narrative?
education. And, you know, listen, there are a lot of very smart people that will hear this and be like, what?
Yeah.
But it's education. It's steeped in systemic racism.
Yeah.
Right.
So not only do we carry these amazing, and we started with 13 Black-owned brands, and now we have over 150 brands. 10% of our brands are dedicated to allyship, which means it's not a Black or brown-owned brand, but it's an ally. It's a person who, or brand, who before the racial reckoning was thinking about us in their formulations, thinking about us in their shade range,
Right.
in front of and behind the scenes of their businesses. They were employing diversely, not even just, you know, skin color, but also, you know, gender and you know, really focused on being truly inclusive. And so we are the first of its kind truly inclusive, you know, beauty retail platform.
Right.
But, you know, since, and we're only 18 months old.
Yeah,
But
you're a baby.
since we launched, 90 days after we launched, we inked a deal with JCPenney to now be the store and
So
store.
this is wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so was it just the fact that there was definitely a need in the marketplace for this,
Yeah.
or were you guys just unicorns that moved super quickly?
No,
Or
I
was
mean,
it both?
we saw, we definitely, it was a business built out of mission and need. Like, okay, if this is going to keep happening, like, let's go change this. Like,
Right.
and let's go do it in a really big way. And let's do it very nimbly and smartly and surround ourselves with the talent that we have known for so long who are change makers in this space.
Right.
And it is time, you know, but from a business perspective, when I looked around at all of these brands and I look around at, you know, the consumers, I mean, you read the latest, you know, McKinsey report, the Black and Beauty report. Black and brown women are the number one spenders in beauty. Yet we get this much shelf space.
Yeah.
And beyond that, speaking further to the mission, if we don't do this and we don't create this type of space, and this is where the mom part comes in, how in the world are my kids ever going to think
Or see
that,
themselves.
or see themselves in any career
Right.
if they don't have examples showing them that they're welcome there now,
Right.
and that it's possible.
Exactly.
And so, you know, it's one giant mission, which is also we have to build generational wealth in
Yeah.
our Black and brown communities. That's
Yeah.
the only way we're going to level the playing field.
It's true.
And it's the only fair thing to do because, you know, and I say this all the time, Black and brown women, when it comes to beauty, have made other people billionaires, right?
Billions.
So it's time to pay it back,
Right.
right? And we historically, from a cultural perspective, when we think about Southeast Asia, Africa, you know, those rituals, I mean, that's what inspired my first brand, was having a grandfather that was a medicine man and a grandmother that was a coffee farmer that I still bring into this brand relevant.
Right.
But that those places in the world have also provided the ingredients and the inspiration. So it's also time to pay it forward.
I mean, let's keep it 100 though. I mean, let's keep it super real. You're up against a mountain. I mean, these brands who have been around, like you're saying, Melissa, too, for literally hundreds of years are not going to bend over and let you take their, you know, their billions of dollars that women of color or, you know, of just people of color, I should say that, in this space has spent on their brands. You know what I mean? For hundreds of years.
Yeah, it's
so
interesting
how
that you
are you
say
even
that.
combating or making a space?
It's so
in 90 days, you inked a deal with JCPenney.
Yep.
How are you making your
that's
way?
a good indicator
Right.
of the fact that the industry is changing,
Yeah.
thankfully. The fact that the oldest retailer in America is like, oh, what are they doing?
Right.
And it's like, that happens, and then we're rolling out in a really meaningful way.
600 stores,
600 stores.
Yeah.
In all pockets of the country, like tiny pockets of the country, not the big cities.
Yeah.
So that's really reaching like the sort of bread and butter of America.
That
and
is
so
America.
for
I was just gonna
JCPenney to, you know, understand how to really serve their consumer, because correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like 60-something% of their
Just over 50% are people of color.
are people of color. Their customer.
Their customer base.
So to see that and serve it and actually show up and then forge this partnership, I think speaks volumes.
It does.
Of thankfully the industry's changing when a massive conglomerate like that can, you know, partner with a smaller company and a new brand that with the mission we have. But I also think that the consumer, as we know, the beauty consumer, and I'm sure you see this all the time with your feedback and your comments and your viewership, are so much more educated now,
Oh,
and
1000%.
everybody's making more intentional purchases with companies that promote transparency, some kind of mission, some kind of social
Sustainability,
impact. Sustainability, so
Female-led.
That's
you know,
right.
We're the
Female-led,
fastest growing segment.
Black-led,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, who's the founder?
That's
What-
right.
Are
People
they,
want to know. People want to be
how
more
they
transparent.
treat their
That's right.
employees, all the nitty gritty ingredients, like
I
reef safe,
think-
coral reef safe,
right.
all that.
I think you hit on something really, really important though, and you hit it. And I don't even think if our viewership even really heard it, but I heard it, and it's because of where I come from. You said that we're hitting the smaller markets. We're not just staying in this space of New York and LA. Right? Where I think a lot of brands target New York and LA. And they think, oh, that's it. We did it. New York and LA. We're good. We got it. We got it. And it's obviously because that's where a lot of press is. That's where all of the editorial content. That's where a lot
population,
of influence,
and
population, celebrity, right? Like those are where that. But there is something to be said about these middle markets, these smaller markets.
Even smaller than middle.
Even smaller than the middle. I'm from Detroit, which is still a pretty big, obviously, city, but it's the Midwest.
Right.
You know, obviously I've lived in Chicago and but that's where I identify with the
Right.
most. I've lived in New York, I've lived in LA, many years on both coasts. But for me, I'm like, people always forget about the Midwest, the
Right.
South. They forget about these smaller markets where people want to know. They want
Right.
accessibility.
Right.
And
to
that's where the
those sort of
needle's
products
really
too.
going to move
That's
from
where
Right.
the needles are going to move.
consumer
Correct.
Absolutely.
mindset,
Correct.
right?
That's where you're going to make a shift and a change.
Right.
Right.
And
You
it's
know?
and you know, the other thing that, you know, triggered a lot of what has triggered my next thought that you said in a positive way is that the difference, the mountain, all of it is that is as hard as 2020 and this racial reckoning and even what we're seeing happening in the world today and is so painful to watch. There are days that I'm so pissed. But there's also the opportunity that I never felt I had as a Black woman, which was permission to actually say what I think.
Right.
And I think that more and more people are shopping meaningfully, right?
That's right.
So yes, we always saw 13 Lune to be a omni-channel business and to be a global business, et cetera, but it is happening so quickly.
Right.
Because I think not only is it the permission that I've been given as a Black female co-founder or my partner has been given as a white LGBTQ man, or our head of content, Melissa, has been given as a Filipino woman and journalist, and it goes on through our team, but then it also goes on through the brand stories, and people do buy into people before they buy into products. I say it all the time.
It's so true.
They always will buy into people, and I think when we think about, you know, those 100-year, you know, multi-billion-dollar conglomerate beauty brands, I think when I think about the Mountain, yeah, it's challenging to build any business, but what I think is even more challenging is to be a company. You know, I'll ask Lulu, my daughter, what's your favorite brand that so-and-so makes? And she'll say, who's that?
Yeah. Totally.
This girl's going to vote in 2 years.
That's right.
She's already started babysitting, trying to make her own money.
That's right. A little
She
entrepreneur.
buys her own beauty products.
Yes.
She loves to, you know, go up to the store and pick out things and show me what she's, you know, asks to use her money to buy stuff on 13 Loon. Both of my children obviously are multiracial. Your child's multiracial. Your children are Black. In less than 30 years,
Right.
the largest segment of humans in the world will be multiracial people.
Wow.
So to me, the Mountain isn't, let's go try to do this now and let's build it and let it grow. And yes, it's challenging. The mountain that I wouldn't want to be trying to climb up is, how do I take my dinosaur company? Dinosaur company.
That's right.
That, like,
Well
literally no
established.
teenagers even know what it is.
Exactly.
That are going to be the largest segment, and then multiracial ones and Black ones and brown ones, who are going to be the majority, which means the biggest spenders,
Right.
are never ever going to shop us because they know we never cared about them.
Right.
That to me is a much bigger mountain.
Yeah.
And like, what I love about Gen Z is like just how honest they are and how like ridiculous. I mean, even when I launched 13 Loon, Lulu's like, Mama, I think that's amazing. Like, you're gonna have a beauty store. That's so cool. She's like, but why would people think that, like, Black and brown people, like, that's just stupid. Like,
I know.
they
I
just,
know. They do.
because
They do.
that's how they've been, you know, they've been raised to be just like,
That's right.
yeah, we're inclusive,
Yeah.
right?
1000%.
And we care about the climate and sustainability.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I think their issues are a lot more, but I think they are able to see the issues a lot more on a global scale
Right.
than what we were.
Right.
We were really, I mean, to be honest with you, it was just what we were taught in school.
And which
Totally.
was, and there was a whole lot of it wiped out. I grew up in
Thank you
Oklahoma.
very
I was
much.
like, what do you mean Tulsa
That's
Massacre?
right.
It's like
That's right.
that was left out of my history
Speaking
book.
of which,
You never heard of it until
speaking
everybody
of
else
which, I literally just watched the other day on Netflix Who We Are.
I'm dying to watch that. It's in my queue.
I mean, honestly, just like a sigh, because it's information that you might obviously know, but the way Jeffrey puts it together is just wild.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is. And so, speaking of which, like, I think my daughter sat in on a little bit, and I think I might. I mean, it's heavy, but it's so relevant, and I think my daughter's mature enough to maybe sit in on a couple of parts and kind of like watch it. But even still, some of the things she was like, "That's so like how could people even think that way? That's so stupid, right?
Right,
Like it's
right.
like that is how they think. These are how our kids are thinking about things. Like what? That's so like what was that? Like,
And they're so proud of their skin, and they're
right.
so proud of their hair.
Their hair.
And, you know, and I think about that too. Like, you know, I'll listen to my daughter and her friends when they're, you know, it's summertime, everybody's hanging out.
Yeah.
They like to just sit and hang. And I'll listen to their conversations, and I'm like, I never talked about politics when I was 16. I can promise you that.
I could promise you that, too.
I knew that I was going to register to vote because as a first generation American, it was something that my parents had always instilled in me, like how lucky I was that I was
Right.
going to get to
It was
vote. So
important.
I would listen to them and pay attention to that. But, you know, really in the beginning, it was either about just voting for who they told me to, or,
Right.
you know,
Right.
So I also,
you weren't an informed voter.
so yeah, so that's what I find empowering about our kids and the way that they're growing up, is that they are going to be more educated, and because they have the internet and access to things that, you know, we had
Yeah.
encyclopedias that
Exactly.
were, you know, written by people who left some important parts out,
Exactly.
right? So
Just a couple.
yeah, just a couple. So and that they're thirsty for knowledge,
Right.
but they also like talk about like they do not stand up for inequity, right? And you can feel it in
Yeah,
their
and
souls.
like you said, they're just looking for transparency.
Right.
You know, they're looking for the root of it. They're looking to understand the why. They're looking to, like, you know, hear the backstory. And I just think it's phenomenal. Listen, I think that 13 Loon and what you guys are building is great. I've told you this before many a times. I'm so proud of you.
Thank
I adore both of you.
honey.
And I'm very appreciative in learning and knowing both of your journeys, right? Alongside my journey. Not as just a woman, but as a mother. And like being able to tap into you guys is a really, it's a gift. And so, you know, I think that sharing what you guys had to say today was just like phenomenal.
Well, I think the only way we're gonna all make change together, because we're all the ones who know what all this journey is like firsthand, right? And what we were talking about with society and everything, and what you're doing here at the podcast is to ensure that the office, the boardroom, the retailer, the husbands, the government sees us all.
That's right.
We're not this woman in the boardroom, and then we shift and we're this woman
That's right.
with our girlfriends, and we're this, you know, along basic societal expectations,
Right.
of course. Like, you can't act crazy at certain, but like, you know, having to really downplay your motherhood to be seen as more male focused
That's
or
right.
whatever when you're raising money or you're talking to like investors or whatever, or boardroom, whatever. You know, I just like pray for the day that we all feel comfortable and not guilty or beat
right.
ourselves
That's so
up
true.
where, because you wanted to show up as your full, whole 360 self, but you just know that society isn't there yet, and you can't jeopardize this, whatever given that opportunity is that day or that moment. And yeah, I just think, you know, we're all trying to.
We all are trying to, and you're absolutely right. This is a space to inspire women that it is okay to show up that way. And here are some examples of women in their journey who are trying or are showing up in that 360 self, and to not think twice about it.
Don't think twice
to
about
not
it.
even doubt yourself on
Right.
it, but to mostly inspire and
Right.
aspire, right? Because I think as women, especially new moms, this is where I was. I just didn't have it. I
Right.
just was like trying to figure it out. I was
Right.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why do I feel this way? And so this is just that space to say, hey, there is the other side.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
There's the other
There is.
side.
And that we need to, we
And that
have
you
to
need
show
that.
up for each other.
You have to show up for each
and
other.
it's, you know, I always say when women come together, that's when the magic's going to happen.
1000%.
Like, no more cattiness, no more, you know,
Mom shaming.
mom shaming,
Yeah.
tearing each other down.
Exactly.
Like, we're all just doing the best we can.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and I think that, and what a release too,
Yes.
right? To not carry that, whatever that
And
ickiness
just
is,
inspire
you know?
our kids.
Right.
You're talking about Lulu, who's 16.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean? Like,
crazy.
inspire
Yeah.
our children who are 10, like, whatever that is, this next generation of tastemakers, of leaders, right? Like, this is what we're doing.
Right.
So, thank you guys.
Oh my
I
gosh, thank
appreciate
you,
it. Oh my
Lizzie.
God, I love you
So
both.
proud of you.
Thank you.
It's so
It's
special.
amazing. Thank
Okay, next
you.
time dinner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wine.
Exactly.
Wine.
Wine. Then a nap.
And a nap.
Meditation.
And a dance.
Exactly.
And no ear piercings.
That's right.